Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Listen Bitch podcast with your host, Brandon Lynette, where we're going to burn down the guilt, bless the growth, and break every emotional chain that's dressed up as a connection. In this episode, I'm coming straight for the lie that's been keeping you emotionally overdrawn and probably spiritually exhausted. And this is that the lies that you owe people access just because they love you. And I'm going to just be honest, you don't. You don't. Today, we're going to tear down that soft, sneaky, manipulative form of guilt that shows up as family loyalty, old friendships, or the trauma bonds that have been wrapped in, but I've always been there for you. Okay. Because love isn't leverage, and support is not spiritual debt, and peace is not a sin. We're talking boundaries as resurrection, not rejection. How guilt is used to bypass your truth, why protecting your peace is obedience, and what it looks like to walk away with honor, clarity, and literally a permission slip from God in your hand. So if you've been feeling like you're the villain for saying no, if you're stuck in that cycle of second guessing your boundaries, or if you're just really tired of bleeding for people who call it love, this is your episode, okay? So we're going to talk about the difference between connection and captivity. We're going to walk away wholly, okay? It's time to resurrect the version of you that keeps asking for permission. Um, let's talk about how to stop owing people access just because they love you, because love is not a debt. Just because they love you. Hell, even if they raised you, prayed for you, or gave you their kidney, that does not give them unlimited access to you. Love that demands access without responsibility, it is not love. It is entitlement dressed up in emotional language. If your peace cost them too much, they were never invested in you, just in their version of you. And that version probably kept them comfortable, kept the family system in order, or kept their abandonment issues quiet. Okay? Not anymore. We're going to talk about guilt over guidance. If you felt or feel guilt every single time that you're saying no, it's because somewhere in your wiring, you've learned and continue to teach yourself and ingrain the fact that saying yes equals being good. Maybe that was a survival skill once, okay? But you're not surviving anymore. You're leading now. So the human reality is what's going to happen. They're probably going to cry. They're going to get pissed. They're going to call you selfish. And none of that means you did anything wrong. That is not your guilt. That is their grief. Let them grieve the version of you who gave them access by default. The version is being resurrected into someone who protects their peace like it's sacred, because it is. Boundary over betrayal. You need to hear this in your bones. A boundary is not you being mean, it's you refusing to be manipulated. So when you set a boundary and someone treats it like a betrayal, that is just a clear sign that it was never love. It was control with a fake ass smile. Okay. And we're done calling that connection. That's gaslighting. And that stops today. And you could start small if you need to. Simple things like you don't have to be rude. It's just like, hey, I'm not available for this conversation right now. I love you, but I need space. I'm not explaining myself anymore. And you have to practice this just like you have to gradually build the muscles in the gym. This takes practice, because honoring your boundaries, this is spiritual, okay? You're not Jesus for these people. You don't have to carry their feelings like a cross just because they can't handle your no. You are not their savior. You are not their therapist. You are not their dumping ground. You're a whole damn miracle with a calling on your life, your purpose, your potential, your desire for this human experience. We're not taking that for granted anymore, and we're not going to let everybody else's shit weigh us down. Every time you water down your truth to keep someone comfortable, you shrink your own capacity to step into your calling. So if you're scared that they're going to leave when you set the boundary, let them. Because if closeness requires you to self-abandon, that is not closeness. That is bondage, okay? And if you break this down, like it's like you feel the guilt creeping in. Okay, you start to feel that. So you've got to make this declaration, and it could be something that you say out loud or just a mantra that you repeat, but you have to reprogram your brain to understand and say this: the guilt is not mine, it's theirs. I don't carry what they won't heal. And make that clear, okay? Their guilt is not yours, that is theirs. You cannot carry what other people refuse to heal. You're about to say yes out of fear, okay? This is going to happen. I want you to pause. I want you to breathe. And I want you to ask, if you said yes to this right now, what part of you is abandoning yourself? Or maybe you start second guessing your boundary. You have to remind yourself, the people who love me for real will honor this. The rest are not your assignment, okay? Maybe you start to spiral, okay? This is where you have to question yourself. What part of you still believes that you have to earn love by bleeding? You don't owe anybody the version of you that has to die inside just to keep the peace. Say that. I don't owe them access just because they say they love me. Because you, babe, you're loving you now. That's the priority. And that love gets the final say. Obligation isn't love. I want to dismantle the belief that you owe people time and energy or emotional access just because of shared history or a bloodline or their own emotional investment. That is, love is not leverage. Love is not leverage. How do you stop mistaking obligation for connection? Like, let's cut the bullshit. We have been sold that lie, okay? That manipulative as hell idea that love equals obligation, that if someone loves you, or if they're your family, or if they were there for you once, that you owe them access to everything. You do not. You know what debt feels like? It's heavy. It's restrictive. It is suffocating. It could be all consuming. You don't breathe fully when you're in debt. You move carefully. Like you feel like you're behind before you even start the day. And that's exactly what these relationships feel like when they're rooted in obligation and not actual love. You are constantly keeping score. I should call them back. I should answer the phone. I should send a text. I have to show up for this party. If I don't do this, they'll say I changed. That is not love. That is emotional blackmail. Love that requires performance is not love, it is leverage. And listen, I get it, especially if it's family, especially when it's someone who sacrificed so much for you or was there during your darkest moment. But this is the raw truth. Just because someone showed up for you once doesn't mean they get a lifetime pass and access to your nervous system. If someone's love comes with strings attached, if that cost is you, then what they gave was not love. It was a down payment on control. Your trauma brain hears you owe them, but your healed self can say, I choose who gets access, period. Obligation feels familiar because for a lot of us, love was conditional. Love was conditional. If you grew up like me, I mean, there was, always that I love you, but I don't like you. I love you, but I don't like you. So many conditions. You got affection when you behaved. You got attention when you were helpful. You got connection when you played the role. So, of course, your nervous system is fucked and it confuses guilt with love. That's learned. That's not holy, and that is not God. Let's talk about bloodline and belonging, because I just want to make this clear. Just because it's your mom or your dad or your sister or your ride or die from back in the day doesn't mean they belong in your current orbit. Okay. History does not equal safety. Proximity does not equal permission. And if your peace gets disrupted every time you interact with them, that is your clue. If your phone is ringing and you have a nervous system reaction and you start to get all stressed inside, that's a fucking problem. You can bless these people. You can bless them. You can pray for them. You could forgive them, and you can still remove access. There's so many red flags wrapped in guilt, okay? And this is how you spot obligation over love, okay? If someone is going to say, after all I've done for you, you used to be so close to me. I mean, I've heard this one. I guess you're too good for us now. Or people are going to say, I just miss the old you. Mm-mm. Yeah, the old Brandon was probably a little more palatable. The old you didn't have boundaries. The old you was easy to manipulate. The you listening to this, your eyes are open, you're awake, and you are not going to fall for that guilt wrapped control anymore. And the best way to reclaim your power when that obligation starts to creep in is you have to name it. You have to say it out loud. Say it out loud. This is obligation, not love. You name it and you send it packing. And you ask yourself, if I say yes, what does this cost me? And if the answer is peace, energy, clarity, or identity, or even time, it's too expensive. Rewrite that belief. The old belief is that we owe them because they love us. And the new belief is I honor my peace. Love without respect is not love. This is control. Practice the micro boundaries. Don't jump to cutting people off if it feels like too much right now. I get that. Little things like I'll call you back later. I'm not available this weekend. I hear you and I'm not talking on that. I'm not taking that on. Every time you choose yourself over their comfort, you retrain your nervous system to see that you are safe, even when you say no. Okay. If you feel like you're being punished every time you don't jump through their hoop, if they withhold the love, if they guilt trip you, if they talk shit about you to everybody they know, if they act like you're selfish for protecting your energy, that is not your person. Those aren't your people. That is literally your permission slip to walk away because love is not a performance. Love is chosen, not coerced, and you don't owe anybody access to the temple of your peace. The altar of your boundaries is your resurrection, not your regret. Guilt guilt is used as a manipulation, and I want to help you, break free from this. So you have to name what is actually happening. When someone says, "But I'm your mother. I've known you forever. Family is everything. I just miss the old you. I need you." That is not always love. That is not always connection. And that is not always safe. Sometimes that is literally just that guilt drenched emotional trespassing. If you're going to call it what it is, it's a manipulation tactic wrapped in nostalgia and fear and false loyalty. Guilt is a nervous system override. You feel it rise in your chest, in your throat, in your gut. It doesn't sound like a voice. It feels like responsibility. And so you're going to think to yourself, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe they're right. Or maybe I just owe them this one time. But guilt is a shapeshifter. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. Be a good girl. Keep the peace. Don't rock the boat. And suddenly you're abandoning yourself again, thinking that you're being loving. That's conditioning. That's codependency. That is emotional slavery. And we are done with that. We're burning all of the shit down this month, all of it. And there's sneaky little forms of guilt manipulation, like the martyr move is, I guess I'll just suffer quietly then, and the translation of that is, if you loved me, you'd sacrifice your boundary to make me feel better. That nostalgia trap. Oh, we used to be so close. And that is really saying, I liked the version of you that didn't have boundaries. Go back to being easy to control. Or the identity guilt, but I'm your dad, I'm your brother, I'm your best friend. We went to church together. What this means, what it's saying is the growth threatens my comfort. Shrink back so I don't have to deal with my own shit. Or that the you changed card. You've changed. This isn't even you. I don't know who you are anymore. The translation is, I'm not willing to grow with you, so I'm going to guilt you into staying stuck with me. How do you stop falling for that shit? You feel the guilt and you still say no. That wave that comes in, that twist in your gut, it's going to be your body detoxing from people pleasing. It's not God. It's not love. It's not truth. You got to let yourself feel it and name it. I feel guilt, but I'm not letting guilt be my God today. And write your truth in advance before it gets loud. Anchor into the truth. You're allowed to grow. Their feelings are not your responsibility. Love does not require self-abandonment. Put it on your phone. Write it in a journal. Read it when the guilt is trying to hijack you. And don't explain, just assert. That's it. Guilt wants you to explain yourself so they can argue with your logic. How much energy is it going to take from you trying to explain everything? Stop debating your piece. Very simple. No could be a one-word answer. That doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. I love you and I'm not changing my decision. No essays, no defense. Let the silence hold the boundary and expect pushback. Prepare for it like a battle. Because when you stop playing that guilt game, people who have always used it to control you will get louder. They're going to say something about it. And that is not a sign that you're wrong. That is proof that you're breaking the pattern. So they're going to accuse you of different things, being cold. Oh, you think you're better than everybody. You're acting superior, not caring. I want you to get this in your head. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your alignment is. You are not responsible for anyone's feelings but your own. No one is out here protecting your peace. You're the one that has to do that. Okay. When I say no one's coming to save you, no one's coming to save you. Stop taking responsibility and letting yourself carry on the bullshit of other people. It's not yours to carry. When someone lays on the guilt, ask yourself, if I say yes, what part of me dies a little? Would I still be doing this if I didn't feel guilty? Or what am I trying to avoid by saying yes? If the answer is my peace, my truth, or my freedom, you already know. You already know. You do not owe people your emotional energy just because you used to be close. You do not owe your past loyalty when it demands your current self-abandonment. You don't owe access to anyone who uses guilt as a leash. You are not a lifeline for people who are drowning in denial. You're allowed to rise, even if they call it betrayal. You're allowed to protect your space, even if they call it selfish. You're allowed to say no, and that no is sacred. Guilt dies when you stop feeding it your energy. That's it. Listen, you're not a bad person for needing space. You're not a cold-hearted bitch because you're finally saying no more. You are a grown-ass human with a calling on your life, and limits are how you protect the assignment, not how you block love. This is about setting limits without shame. Not with excuses, not with over-explaining, and definitely not with that emotional hangover that makes you question your worth after the fact. How do you set the limits without the shame? If you've been taught that your value is in your availability, setting that boundary is going to feel like betrayal, not to them, but to you, because your nervous system has been wired to associate being loved with being useful, agreeable, or you're the strong one. So when you pull back, your body's going to scream, your guilt's going to surge, and your old programming starts to panic. You're not just setting a boundary with them. You're setting a new contract with yourself. And this contract says, I don't have to bleed to be beloved. I'm allowed to say no and still be worthy of love and God and success and peace. You have to unhook your identity from the reaction. Lock it in. If they're disappointed, not your fault. If they talk shit, still not your fault. If they cry, lash out, guilt trip, say it with me. That's their nervous system, not my job to regulate. You are not a peace offering. You're not a 24/7 emotional service station. You're a fucking human with a massive mission, not a machine for other people's comfort. Upgrade your boundary vocabulary from shrinking, to self-respect instead of I'm sorry, but I hate to say this, but I feel bad, but that's bullshit. It's very simple. I've decided this doesn't work for me anymore. I love you, but I'm also honoring what I need. That's not something I'm willing to carry. This is what I'm available for. Here's what I'm not. And you got to say it, like you mean it. Not performance, no drama, no defense, just data. It's just basic data, just truth. Your truth is neutral. You don't have to convince anyone. And then you anchor in that clarity. You're not being mean. You're not rejecting people. You're being obedient to the calling on your life. Jesus had boundaries. Jesus withdrew from crowds. He didn't give access to everyone who wanted it. Boundaries are not rejection. They're protection of your call, of your peace, and your capacity to lead. So before you even open your mouth to set a boundary, pray about it. Ground yourself and declare, ask God to help you speak the truth without shame. Ask him to help you, surrender their reaction to you. Ask for the peace in choosing obedience over approval. That's how you root your limits in love, not fear. And then absolutely expect that emotional backlash and stay the course. The moment you stop being overly available is the moment that people are going to question your love and your loyalty and your change. That's predictable. That is proof Proof it was never unconditional. Let them feel what they feel. Let them process. Let them lose access if they can't honor who you're becoming. You are not here to maintain other people's comfort at the cost of your calling. You have to practice boundary self-talk every single day. Anytime you're spiraling, okay? You get to tell yourself, I'm allowed to disappoint people who expect me to abandon myself. God honors this boundary even if they don't. I can love people and still say not today. My yes means something because my no is real. And when in doubt, I mean, there is a limit setting formula. Acknowledge the relationship. You know, I care about you. I value our connection. State your truth. Right now, I need whatever it is you need. You need space, time, clarity, rest, distance, food. I don't know. Own the decision. This is not up for discussion. I just want to be honest. That's it. This is grown adult energy. This is massive responsibility for your shit. That is sovereignty with softness. You don't have to feel 100% confident to be clear. You don't have to be totally healed to be holy. You just have to decide, I'm not shrinking anymore to make anyone else feel safe. I'm safe with God. I'm safe with myself. And that is enough. That is enough. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. It's about resurrecting the version of you that forgot you were holy. It's not just self-help talk bullshit. This is literally spiritual. What you think is rejection, saying no feels like abandonment because it was abandonment once for you. Okay. You were probably trained to believe being good meant being agreeable, being loved meant being low maintenance, and being close meant being available no matter the cost. So when you finally come through and say, no, I won't keep doing this. I love you, but I'm not available for this dynamic. I'm done betraying myself to keep the peace that isn't real. It feels like you're being the bad guy, like you're rejecting someone, but that is not rejection. That is resurrection. That's you getting up from the grave of who they told you to be. Boundaries are altars, not walls. Walls keep people out. Altars elevate you to meet God again. Every time you honor a boundary, you are saying, God, I trust you more than I trust their reaction. God, I will no longer trade my peace for their comfort. God, let this no be worship. Let this limit be obedience. This is about resurrecting the version of you who knows that you're chosen, who doesn't need to explain, who doesn't second guess your discernment, and who doesn't water yourself down to be digestible. You're not being harsh, you're being holy. The mindset shift you really need, you've got this old belief. If I set this boundary, I'm rejecting them. The new truth, the solid truth, is if I don't set this boundary, I'm rejecting myself. Let that hit you. Let it sting. Let it burn off the codependent programming that has kept you small. You're not choosing between being nice or being mean. You're choosing between living dead or living whole. You stop replying just to manage their feelings because peace is not equal to pacifying. Okay, this is what resurrection looks like in real life. You stop attending every emotional fire that they start because empathy is not equal to enmeshment. Okay, you stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you because connection is not equal to convincing. You stop apologizing for your no because alignment is not equal to approval. And you start speaking from authority, not anxiety, not trauma, not guilt, but truth. Rejection might happen. Let it. That's the real raw deal. Some people will take your boundary as rejection. That is not your sin. That is their assignment. Okay. They were never entitled to a version of you that self abandoned to keep their love. They're addicted to your availability. They're not invested in your well being. So let them walk away and let them be confused and let them be uncomfortable with the new you because the old you, that was performance. That was you surviving. That was you dimming your light. And now you're rising. And resurrection is going to feel like that spiritual clarity. You're going to have that nervous system peace. You're going to have emotional congruence. You're going to have energy that stays in your body. God saying, yes, this is who I made you to be. Can you look in the mirror today, right now, and say that? This is who God made me to be and be happy with that reflection in the mirror. When you set a boundary, you're not saying I hate you, you're saying I remember who I am now. You have to declare it, okay? I am not rejecting anyone. I'm resurrecting the version of me that walks with God, not guilt. I build altars now, not walls, and the people who belong in my life will rise to meet me here. The people that are meant for you will always find you. Boundaries don't burn bridges. They burn the coffins that you've been calling connection. That's not rejection. That is resurrection. And you can welcome yourself back to life. Okay. There is the holy art of walking the hell away. No ghosting, no spiraling, no I'll come back if they apologize. I'm talking about spirit-led, shame-free, soul-anchored permission to walk away and not look back. Because the truth is, some of y'all are out here dying inside trying to keep doors open that God never even asked you to walk through, let alone keep unlocked for the whole neighborhood to trample your peace. Break it down. Burn it down. Permission to walk away, not a betrayal, not a failure, a full body yes to your soul. You're not abandoning people. You're abandoning patterns that have made you abandon yourself. There's a huge difference there. So when you're starting to feel that tension, when you know your spirit's heavy and your peace is gone, yet you keep holding that door open because I don't want to hurt them because they need you, or you don't want to seem selfish, let me tell you the truth. You keep giving yourself away, and then you bleed on the people that do love you, that do honor you, that have risen with you, that have walked through hell with you. You're not being obedient. You're being emotionally enslaved. Okay. God never said die on every heel. He just said deny yourself, take up your cross and follow, not follow them through every codependent door just because they got a history with you. This is what it looks like if you can give your permission to walk away, yourself permission to walk away. You don't justify your exit. You don't need a long dramatic speech. You don't need them to understand. You don't need a final conversation that ends in a bow. No more performance. Sometimes closure is just like this. It's no longer mine to carry. God, I trust you with the mess. I'm gone. You owe yourself the peace you keep handing to people who only use it as leverage. You choose that grief over guilt. Yeah, it's going to hurt. We're human. We're human. It's going to feel like a loss. But I want to say this, grieving the connection is holy. Feeling guilty for honoring your peace is not. Guilt is going to keep you in places that God already left. Grief walks you through the valley into that resurrection. So if it aches, good. That is proof you're walking away with a heart, not bitterness. You stop asking, what will they think? What will they think? Does your whole life revolve around what other people think? Because if so, who the fuck are you? You're weak. If you really want your power and you want to start walking in your power, start asking, what did God say? You should care more about what God's going to say than what other people will think. Because some of y'all are stuck in rooms because you care more about their opinion than God's instruction. So fix that. Ask yourself, did God ask me to carry this? Did God ask me to fix them? Is this love or is this penance? And if the answer isn't alignment, it's disobedience disguised as loyalty. That's not holy. You're in a hostage situation. You know, you trust that obedience is peace, not popularity. When you walk away from something that doesn't serve you, but made you feel needed, you're going to feel the withdrawal. You're going to feel the silence. But I don't want you to confuse the absence of noise with the absence of God. He speaks loudest in the peace, and peace isn't the result of walking away. It's the confirmation you were supposed to. And that kind of peace settles in when you finally let go of the fake connection. That's how God signs off on that. You know, burn the savior script. You're not their emotional rehab center. You are not the translator of their trauma. You're not the reason that they're stuck, and you're not the one to get them unstuck. They're grown. They've got God just like you do. You have permission to love them and leave. You have permission to pray for them without texting them. You have permission to walk away and let the Holy Spirit finish what you were trying to micromanage. And if you're scared, talk to God about it. Verbally release the need to be understood. Release the need to be needed. Release the fear of letting go. If the door no longer serves my peace, your purpose, I close it. And I trust you to handle what I'm leaving behind. Walking away isn't the end. It's just the beginning of being whole again, of being obedient instead of overly available, of being chosen by God, not just tolerated by people. If you have been asking for a sign that it's okay to walk away, this is it. Not because you're bitter, not because you're broken, but because your peace is too sacred to keep sacrificing. So walk away with peace, with love, with fire in your bones. And relational, I mean, we care about this relational honesty with Christ, okay? Because it is the blueprint for every boundary you set, every lie you break agreement with, and every person that you walk away from in obedience. Because here's the deal: Jesus doesn't love you because you perform, He doesn't stay close because you're agreeable. And He sure as hell does not ask you to martyr your peace just to stay liked. This is the foundation for setting boundaries that heal. God's love doesn't manipulate, so real love shouldn't either. Jesus never guilt tripped anybody into following him. He never said, I healed you, now you owe me. And he never used emotional leverage to keep someone close. Let me tell you what he did say. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. He said that. He also said, shake the dust off your feet. He said that. He also said, come to me, all who are weary, not all who are terrified of disappointing people. His love is an invitation, not coercion, okay? So if someone's trying to use guilt or fear or shame to stay connected to you, that is not love, it's counterfeit. And you don't have to keep entertaining it. Boundaries are how you walk in truth. Jesus didn't heal every person in town. He didn't chase people down. He didn't let Peter's emotions manipulate his mission. He didn't even go after the rich young ruler when he walked away. He stayed in truth. He loved with clarity and he let people choose. That is your model. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're hard-hearted. It means that your heart is aligned with the one who already calls you enough. And that relational honesty starts with Jesus because every other relationship flows from your connection to him. If you don't believe you're safe with God, you'll spend your life trying to be safe with people. If you don't know that your identity is already secured in Christ, you'll keep proving it in every room that you walk into. But when you start being radically honest with Jesus, this is where I'm scared to let go. This is where I've been trying to earn love again. This is where I feel guilty for choosing peace. He meets you there, not with punishment, not with correction, but with presence. He meets you there, and then he gently reminds you that you don't have to trade your integrity for connection. You don't have to keep everyone happy, and you don't owe anyone access to what he died to make holy. Walking away is sometimes worship. I know I know that you gasped when I said that because walking away is sometimes worship. If God didn't ask you to keep the door open, if God didn't assign you to be their emotional rehab, if God is giving you peace in your decision to walk, then leaving is obedience, and obedience is worship. You are not betraying them, you're honoring him. You're saying, God, I trust you more than I trust keeping this connection alive. I believe your plans for me include peace, clarity, safety, and purpose, not confusion and chaos and guilt. Jesus is your example, not your enabler. He shows us what radical love looks like, but also what holy boundaries feel like. He didn't stay in dead places. He didn't beg for love. He didn't twist himself to be digestible. Neither do you. Relational honesty with Christ isn't some lofty concept. This is the foundation of every decision you make to stop shrinking, stop performing, and stop bleeding for closeness. Because when you know you're already fully loved, you stop hustling for scraps from people who only love the version of you that they can control. Listen, if no one has told you this today, let's just finish here. You do not owe them your peace. You do not owe them your presence. You do not owe them a damn thing that they're trying to guilt you into giving. You're allowed to close doors without being the villain. You're allowed to say no without a 12-paragraph explanation. And you're allowed to protect your peace like it's sacred because it is. This isn't about being cold. This is about being clear. This is about walking in relational honesty with Christ, who never asked you to betray yourself to prove your love. So, in honor of the month of June of burning it down, I want you to burn the script that says love means access. I want your boundaries to be your altar. I want you to walk away without shame, without guilt, and without looking back. And you know, if this episode obviously lit a fire under your boundaries, I want you to share it. Text it to your friend who keeps second guessing herself. Okay. That's surrounded by bullshit relationships. You see it, you see it weighing her down. Post it, tag me, let me know what you're done playing emotional cleanup crew. Okay. You're not rejecting anyone, you're resurrecting you. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Keep your heart open, keep your peace non negotiable. You already know I love you, but I'm not afraid to walk away either. Love you guys.